Yeah, now we get to the good stuff. Grossi Posse Packer Nation. Welcome to an episode of Packcast, the podcast where you don't have to be a Packers fan, but it sure does help. I'm your host, Tom. This is so effing exciting because this edge class is so damn good. Grossi, and today what we're going to be talking about is arguably the deepest positional group in this year's draft, and that is edge rushers, because boy, oh boy, there are some studs on here. Now, this was on full display during the combine. Guys like Nolan Smith shot up draft boards, and you could see a lot of these edge guys. I wouldn't be surprised if there's at least 10 edge players that are going to go in the first round, but there's also some great value on day 2 and even on day 3. So what I wanted to do is kind of go through a couple of these prospects, which ones make sense for the Green Bay Packers and who they might be willing to take. Now, before we break down a single prospect, I want to do some honorable mentions, plus we've mentioned some of these guys before in previous videos. I talked about Myles Murphy, the defensive end from Clemson. I really like him as a player. I think he'd be strong at number 15. We'll see if the Packers actually decide to go that way, because I think they could draft edge in round 1. They do need the depth. On top of that, Rashawn Gary injured. We'll see when he comes back this season. But to learn behind Preston Smith and Rashawn Gary, they will feast. Kingsley Enagbari, of course, they drafted him last year, could still be a pivotal piece on that defense, but we just need to see more of him. But for right now, we're going to skip Myles Murphy. On top of that, Tyree Wilson, I'm not going to talk about just because I think he's going to be gone by the time the Packers pick him. So instead, I'm going to suggest one more day 1 guy, and then the rest are going to be day 2 and day 3. So let's talk about, besides Darnell Washington, tight end, let's talk about my most recent draft crush. And this guy, I could see going in the first round or going day 2 in the second round. And I practiced so hard on trying to get this name right, and I do not do it well. But it is Tuli Tuipulotu. Tuipulotu. I think that's right. I tried really hard. From USC, 6'3", 266 pounds. This guy had an absolutely insane 2022 season. Let's go back to 2021. 2021 had 24 solo tackles, 7 for a loss, 5.5 sacks, 2 passes defended, and 2 forced fumbles. Pretty good, right? Well, in 2022, 31 solo tackles, 22 tackles for a loss. Yeah, did pretty damn good. 13.5 sacks, 3 passes defended, and 2 forced fumbles. The power that comes off of this guy is just so impressive. And this is why I wouldn't be surprised if he goes in round 1, because watching his tape is truly impressive. And good God, I just loved watching this guy work. He obviously gets after the quarterback. He's good at stopping the run as well. And he's a guy that you just throw back there, and it would just be so much fun. If you have a pass rushing unit of Rashawn Gary, Preston Smith, and Tuipulotu, oh, I would be so damn happy. Now, is he worth the number 15 spot? That might be a little high. I wouldn't be surprised if maybe the Packers decided to trade back and maybe they could get him in like the early 20s. I think that would be the move, and if they got additional draft capital. But right now, I just absolutely love this prospect. I think he could definitely go in the first round, definitely a day 2, round 2 pick. And if the Packers do get an additional second round pick from the Jets for Aaron Rodgers, I would be so happy if they drafted him. Then another day 2 guy who also could sneak into the end of the first round. You got Will McDonald IV from Iowa State, 6'4", 239 pounds. Also hometown of Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Just putting it out there, just saying. Had a 5-year career, so age could be a little bit of a factor with Will McDonald if the Packers want to draft him. But in 20 and 2021, he had 13 tackles for a loss, had 10.5 and 11.5 sacks respectively. In 2022, 7.5 tackles for a loss, 5 sacks, and 4 passes defended. He is explosive as hell. He just has like a quick jump off, and it's really impressive to watch. Now, I think he makes a little bit more sense for a round 2 pick because I think that there's definitely some things that he could develop on skill-wise and technique, but Will McDonald definitely brings the freaking power, man. He just bulldozes blockers, and he's just another guy who's really fun to watch. And these guys that I'm bringing up, they make sense in the beginning of the first round. They make sense in the second round because there's just so much depth there. And I really just haven't seen an edge class like this that I've just been really attracted to in quite some time. I just think there's so many good prospects here. Will McDonald is one of them. I would not be complaining if we got him in the second round. And yeah, E-I-E-I-O. Then a guy who most definitely could sneak in the first round because of his great combine. I mentioned him in the intro. You got the defender from Georgia, who we like to take. We got Nolan Smith. Now, I think that his position in the draft has kind of been inflated because of how good his combine was, but he still could be a really good impact player. 6'2", 238 pounds, so a bit smaller than the other prospects we just talked about, but he was a monster in the combine. Ran a 4.39. In 2021, had 8 tackles for a loss, had 4.5 sacks. In 2022, 7 tackles for a loss and 3 sacks. And that's where I have a little bit of a problem. The production for an athlete of his caliber really wasn't there. Now, the same was also said about Rashawn Gary. He got doubled a lot, and when I watched Rashawn Gary's tape back then, the big concern I had for him was that he had all of this speed, but he constantly got pushed to the outside. Nolan Smith, if you are going to draft him, it's because he has a really high ceiling. He's an athletic monster, and you are drafting him purely based off of that potential that you could develop him into a 3-down pass rusher who could just wreak havoc in the backfield. And I think the Packers could do that. The only issue is I don't think that they're going to take a swing for him in the first round, and another team might beat them to it because just his athletic ability is too much to pass on. But right now, if we were able to land Nolan Smith, if he just fell down draft boards in the second round, I think that he is a guy that you would want to develop because the potential is just going to be too much to want to pass up on. And my day 3 guy who I absolutely love, it's another tongue twister. It is Felix Anudike-Uzomah. Yeah, but good God, worth it, hyphen and all. Put it on the back of a jersey. I really like this player. Like, I really want the Packers to draft him on day 3. He also could just go at the end of the third round if some team is willing to. From Kansas State, 6'3", 255 pounds. In 2021, 14.5 tackles for a loss, 11 sacks, 6 forced fumbles. 2022, double-digit tackles for a loss again, 8.5 sacks, 1 pass defended, 2 forced fumbles. The guy just has an insane motor. And I'm watching his tape, and I was just like, yes. The thing that stood out the most, he's constantly engaged with a blocker. And even if you just want to watch highlights, you could go watch those. He's usually bringing down the ball carrier while he's still tied up with a blocker. He's just reaching out one arm and just pulling him down. The guy has amazing strength. He definitely needs to develop. But if we got him on day 3, oh my God, it's a freaking home run. Because again, we don't need a guy who's coming out right away that could just contribute. Of course, that's the goal every single time. But because we already have 2 good pass rushers, if he could sit back and just learn, I think that he could be a force to be reckoned with. Now, technique, not fully there, really is usually just a bull rush guy, but has so much power and so much speed. It's got the job done in his college days. And I think just as a development prospect, I just am so excited at the potential. Whichever team winds up landing him could have a stud on their hands. I hope it's the Packers. They go for depth, but it just turns out that this guy is an absolute monster, and it would just make me so happy. But those are the prospects that really stood out to me for edge. I think, again, if the Packers have 2 second-round picks, they go edge, tight end for the second round. It just makes the most amount of sense for me. They can get immediate contribution from both players in the second round, and that would just be a home run. But of course, let me know what you think down in the comments below. You can always send me at TomGrossiComedy.com or at TomGrossiComedy, all social media, see down below. Check out Patcast on SoundCloud, iTunes, Google Play Music, Spotify, and of course YouTube. And a big shout and thank you to all the patrons over at patreon.com/TomGrossiComedy and the YouTube members. But thank you so much for watching. I'm Tom Grossi. And as always, go Pack Go.